brows of hills and concealed dips, and how is the best way to deal with them. Hello there and welcome. So one feature of a road that we encounter quite a lot is the brow of a hill, or maybe a concealed dip. It's important that looking well up that road we see these features very early. Now if you've been trained well, you'll be using the limit point analysis technique to help you with a lot of bends. And some people say there is no limit point on the brow of a hill. That's not strictly true. What you need to be looking for into the distance is how much of the road surface can you see, and at the point that you lose the road surface you cannot be certain what is ahead of you. And that means that technically you should ride at a speed so that you can stop safely in the distance that you can see to be clear. I do remember being a lot younger, one of the fun things to do was to approach brows very quickly, like this one here with its very little view, and see how fast you could go over them so that your tummy did a little flip, and it was quite exciting if the wheels started to leave the road. On hindsight, that was a very silly thing to do, because you never know what's on the other side of the brow, and if there's a broken down vehicle or a pedestrian or a horse, there's going to be trouble. So whenever you see a brow and the road has no view ahead, you must reduce your speed so that you can stop safely on your side of the road in the distance that you can see to be clear. You see, some brows like this one here are fairly shallow, but you can't see the road surface initially, and if you don't know the road you don't know necessarily how deep that drop is, so you do not know what's concealed. Always treat dips in the road and brows as dead ground. Even if you can see the road way the other side of it, what's in the middle can conceal something nasty. So we can just see the road falling away there, dead ground. The limit point is fairly static, just starting to move away now, and then we're into the next one. Now this road here has got a 50 limit. It used to be national, and it does rise and fall quite a lot, so you can see the dip there. Notice how now that blue car is almost invisible into the dip. I'm sitting quite high on this motorcycle, so I was able to see the roof line of it, but if you're in a low sports car or you're on a sports bike with a much lower profile, it may be that for a moment vehicles in that dip are indeed invisible. We can just see the next brow of the hill coming along here. Let's note how much or how little of the car we can or can't see as it drops into the dip. So here the road is just gently undulating, nothing too serious here, and we can see the road well ahead up there. We can see a warning sign of a junction to the left, and we've got hazard lines in force with arrows telling us to keep over as there's a solid set of whites coming into play. Now there you go. Notice how for a moment there that car is completely concealed in the dip, and I've slowed that down just so we can see that in a little bit more detail. So dips like this, hence the solid white, you've got to be extremely cautious of. And it goes without saying that despite the white line, the solid white, you shouldn't be overtaking because of the high risk involved. But believe it or not, we actually see people overtaking. So as regards road positioning, we can only speak generally, as road positioning will always depend on many factors and not just a single factor. But generally speaking, when I'm approaching a brow or a dip on a road such as this, I would rather be more central in my lane or even slightly towards the left of my lane. Here I can get a good view into that dip, so I've got options of sitting anywhere within this lane as long as I preserve my safety. But as I lose the view of the road ahead, I would rather come in towards the left more, just in case someone is overtaking and straddling those lines. As it happens, that sets me up quite nicely away from that van emerging, but the oncoming traffic are blocking him anyway. Because I'm not too close to the vehicle in front, it doesn't upset my view of the road ahead. Now I can see that road right the way down there. You might not see that on camera because of the way the lens is, but we've actually got a really nice view and we can see that there's another dip. So by keeping back from the vehicle in front, I can maintain a good visibility, and also I may get a temporary view under the wheels of the vehicle in front, which is often afforded when we're doing brows of hills. So we can see there that the solid line isn't continuous. There's clearly a bit of dead ground. I don't think this brow is significant in the amount of dead ground. You can see that the view is soon restored. It's just momentary on this one because it's fairly shallow. But as we approach the next brow, you can see that we've completely lost the view of the road, plus there's a crossroads, and we can see that we're going to come into a solid white line system. So road positioning needs to be measured on the junction, the solid whites, the visibility. And the visibility's opened up as we get here, and we're now into the visibility that we get for bends. So we're just positioning accordingly, working with the limit point to help us and holding that view open. So as you can see here by the brow of this hill, fairly wide road, but if you can, best position is to choose one to the left, not in the gutter, but towards the left is useful. What some people used to call mowing the daisies. I think it was Mike Waite, a well-renowned instructor for the police, used to say that a lot. Now the reason that we consider choosing that position that far to the left is because if someone is being daft enough to overtake on the brow of that hill, it puts you out of their way. Some people are just misplaced on the road, or you might meet something big like that lorry there ahead. When I've mentioned this to people before, very often what they've said is, but what if someone's parked on the other side? You'll be that far into the left you could crash into it like a parked vehicle. Yet again, we're back to the old golden rule. Always travel at a speed so you can stop safely in the distance that you can see to be clear on your own side of the road. So the limit point in real terms is that ridge of tarmac. Once you cannot see beyond that ridge, that's the point of where you have to stop. And so if that view yields no further view of the road ahead, your speed has to continue to reduce until the view is restored. So with this bridge here, you know, as we approach, we get a great view very early of the bridge. There's also, you can see that there is a, I'm going to slow it down a little bit here, you can also see that there's a slight right hand bend on it, and that's signified by the tree lines, and you can see that curve. So it's a good idea, if we keep away from the centre line, anyone that is overtaking or misplaced will be far away from us as possible. And at this point we get the full view of the road ahead, and that's the point at which we can change our road position to anything that is more suitable or favourable to us, providing of course we preserve our safety. So basically with these brows and hills, using the system of position, speed, gear, acceleration, or even OSM PSL if you wish, position yourself for safety to keep yourself out the way of potential problems. That way if the worst happens, chances are you're going to be able to avoid any issues. Moderate your speed according to the position that you've chosen for safety, so that you can always stop safely in the distance you can see to be clear on your own side of the road, of course. If you do that, there's no real issues with brows of hills. The big problem is when you go speeding across them without considering your position or your speed, and then as you reach the crest of the hill and the view opens up, you see that your way is obstructed, and then of course you're in trouble. We don't want any of that. So until next time, ride safe and take care.